Good afternoon, guys, and happy Monday. So on Friday, you guys took quiz 3-1, and it was 20 questions, and you had one-step equations, rational equations, two-step equations, and equations with square roots. Some of you guys did really great and showed me that you mastered that skill over the last week and a half, and some of you did not do so hot, and I don't think you're going to be very happy with your score. As you know, I do not do quiz corrections, I do not do retakes. You earn your score as is. You guys had a little over an hour to do a 20-question quiz, which is more than feasible. So with that being said, your score is as is. It's in the grade book. It was put in on Friday. That's not going to change. So what you're going to do for our classwork grade today, so it's not affecting the grade that's in the grade book for this quiz, that's staying. I don't do corrections. I don't do retakes. That grade is it. You proved to me what you knew. What this classwork grade is going to give you is based on your ability to make corrections, either 100% for following along with the video today, or if you choose not to do it, then it's going to be a 0 for a classwork grade, which nobody wants this close to the end of the quarter. So I'm going to walk through the 20 questions and work these out, and you're going to skim through, and I'm going to go in order of 1 through 20, and you're going to correct the ones that I marked wrong. And you're not going to write anything different on your pink quiz. That quiz is it. Do not write on that. You're going to, if let's say you missed number 1, you're going to write number 1 and go through and correct it with me, box in your final answer on a separate sheet of paper that you can label test corrections and write your name or quiz corrections. If you didn't miss number 1, you don't need to rework it. What you're going to do is turn in your quiz and your quiz corrections to me in order for me to give you a classwork grade for these corrections. Again, this is not going towards your actual quiz grade. That is as is. This is you going back and making those corrections and with motivation of a classwork grade, so I know it's getting done, so we're ready to go on to multi-step equations because we do not have any time to waste in order to make sure we're getting through everything we need to for you guys to be ready for Algebra 1 next year. So with that being said, I'm going to start with number 1 and work my way through 20. Pause as you need, skim through until you find the one you need. Let's say you didn't miss a problem up until number 6. You don't need to listen to numbers 1 through 5 because clearly you knew how to do those. So fast forward until you see that I'm at number 6 in the video and get what you need and then turn that into me, and then you'll be able to get a head start on our multi-step equation lesson, which ultimately means you'll have more time to work on homework in class and less to do at home then. If you have any questions at this point, raise your hand. So we're about 3 minutes into the video, so everybody should have listened to this before you're asking me a question. If you're still unsure on what to do, please raise your hand so I can clarify. I'm sure if you have this question, somebody else in the class may as well. All right, number 1, it was a one-step equation, x minus 11 equals -5. So one-step equation means you're trying to get x by itself, so it's subtracting 11 on the same side. So that means the opposite of subtracting is addition. So you would just have to add 11 on both sides. -5 plus 11. Switch it around if you need to, and that's going to give you 11 minus 5, which gives you 6. And then you would just box in your final answer. And on your quiz, I had lines off to the side where you could write those answers as well. So, number 1, make corrections if you need that. Number 2, 51 equals -3 times n. When that number is right beside the variable, that means multiplication. The inverse or the opposite of multiplication is division. So we are going to divide by -3, not in. I should not have wrote in. So -3n divided by -3 would cancel out, leaving me with n. That's what I want. 51 divided by -3, positive divided by a negative is going to equal a negative because they're different signs, and that actually ends up giving us 17. So n equals -17. If I took off a half because you forgot your minus sign, I still need to see you rework this on your paper, or else you won't get credit for that in terms of that correction grade. And again, if you need longer to copy it down, that's why this is a video. Pause as needed, rewind, whatever you need. All right, so number 3 is a rational equation. It's a one-step rational equation. What makes it rational is that I'm dealing with decimals now. I'm trying to get y by itself. It's adding 7.8, so I'm going to subtract 7.8 on each side in order to have y by itself. 5.1 minus 7.8 leaves me with negative 2.7. Negative 2.7. I see your one step of subtracting 7.8 in your work. Box in your final answer. Make sure your signs are correct. If you aren't sure how I got that using a calculator, raise your hand and ask myself or ask Ms. Cannon. So I'm just going to type it in and show you guys exactly what's in the calculator, because I think some of us are just struggling with those basic skills. 5.1 minus 7.8 gives you negative 2.7. All right. Number 4 is also a rational equation. It's only one step. What makes it rational is that it has decimals in it. So it's a divided by 0.4 equals 75. So we need to, opposite of dividing is multiply both sides by 0.4. Those are going to cancel out, leaving me with a. 75 times 0.4 gives me 30. Nice whole number for my answer, even though I was dealing with that decimal. All right, number 5 and 6, a lot of you kind of panicked on because you saw those fractions and you froze. You guys know how to do this. We spent time on this during Unit 1. I know you've seen this in previous math classes before, and regardless, maybe it's been a while, I went over this with you guys in Unit 1. And I reviewed this in the lessons for Unit 3, what we're currently doing. So number 5 is 3 over 5 times W equals negative 1 and 2/25. So you guys had a lot of good ideas. Common denominator, do I make it an improper fraction? A lot of you are on the right track. Think, it's multiplication. Common denominator doesn't matter in this case, but what does matter is making that mixed number an improper fraction. So remember my wraparound. 25 times 1 is 25, plus 2 is 27. So that's going to be 27 over 25, and I'm going to keep the sign with it, that negative. So I'm bringing that down, and I'm just going to bring down that 3 over 5 times W on the left-hand side. So now that I've taken that mixed number and created an improper fraction, now I can think about, well, how do I get that 3/5 away from the W? We're multiplying by 3/5 on each side, so the inverse of multiplication is division. But we don't divide by fractions. Fractions are special. Instead, we multiply by the reciprocal. So times 5 over 3 on each side. Both sides, it's happening. A lot of you kind of knew how to do it, but you wouldn't do it to both sides. Just got a little messy. My 5s and 3s cancel out, leaving me with W, which is great. Multiply straight across. Negative 27 times 5. So I'm going to grab my calculator. Negative 27 times 5 gives me negative 135. And notice I'm just going to keep that negative with the numerator. So I'm now going to say 25 times 3. If I have 3/4, I have 75 cents, so over 75. Reduce, reduce, reduce. If you got this on your quiz, you did not get full credit. I need you guys to reduce that. I know if they both end with a 5, that 5 will go into those. So negative 135 divided by 5 gives me negative 27. And 75 divided by 5 gives me 15. So that would be great, except I think I know something that will go into that again. Hopefully you guys see that 3 will work. So negative 27 divided by 3 gives me negative 9. I'll write that a little neater. And 15 divided by 3 gives me 5. So that would have been as reduced as possible. And that's just centered for my work, and I ran out of a little bit of room there. It's challenging, and especially that reducing, it looks hard and it looks like a lot of work. It's not a hard skill though. You guys know how to do this. Multiplying by the reciprocal. Here, I was done with the new material. Reducing is a skill you guys learned in elementary school. All right, number 5, freeze if you need to write something else down. I'm moving on to number 6. Number 6 is also dealing with fractions. It's still a one-step equation, but now instead of dealing with multiplication and division in number 6, it's dealing with adding and subtracting. So this now is the time where that common denominator idea is going to come in. First, change that into an improper fraction. 2 times 8 is 16. 16 plus 5 is 21. I'm going to bring the sign down, so negative 21 over 8, leave your denominator the same, equals k minus 3 over 4. All right, so all we did in that first step was change our mixed number into an improper fraction. So now I need to go ahead and find common denominators for 8 and 4. Well, I know 8's going to work for both of them, so I'm just going to multiply the top and the bottom here times 2 for that 3 over 4 fraction. So minus 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 4 is 8. So I have the same denominator now, which is great. So I'm going to add 6 over 8 on each side, because it's the opposite of subtraction. So k equals, that all cancels, negative 21 plus 6 is going to leave me with negative 15 over 8. You can definitely leave your answer like this. Same thing for number 5. I didn't end up making it into a mixed number for my answer, but you totally could have, so I apologize for not showing you that in number 5. I will show you here for number 6 though. Well, I know 8 goes into 15 one time, and I have 7 left over. So you could definitely put negative 15 over 8, or negative 1 and 7 over 8 would also work. So either of those two answers mean the same thing and would be correct. I didn't specify if it had to be a mixed number or leave it as an improper fraction, so either of those would have been accepted. All right, cool. We are done with the one-step equations of the quiz. So that was numbers 1 through 6. So I'm going to start with a few of the two-step equations in this video. So number 7, 9x minus 14 equals 22. Okay, this is my dating scenario here. You are always the variable. The job is for you to get home by curfew and have all your friends dropped off. So 9's your date, minus 14's your third wheel, and this is home. So you need to do the opposite of subtracting and add that 14 on each side. So you and your date are together, you're dropping off your third wheel who's hanging out with you guys, and you got 36, 22 plus 14. Got to get your date home by curfew, so the opposite of multiplication is to divide by 9 on each side. So x equals 4 for your final answer. So I see your first step where you added 14 on each side. I see your second step of how you divided by 9. Final answer is boxed in. Number 8, negative 2p minus 5 equals negative 37. All right, two-step equation again. Negative 2 is your date. You are p. Negative 5 is your third wheel then, and then the side with the negative 37 is home. Add 5 on each side. Get rid of your third wheel first. Negative 2p equals negative 32. Negative 37 plus 5 is negative 32. Got to drop off your date, so the opposite of multiplication is to divide. P equals 16. Negative divided by a negative, same sign, positive answer. I see two steps in my work very clearly. You're making corrections using this video on a separate sheet of paper. There's no reason your work should not be very similar to mine. All right, number 9, negative 1 equals negative 8 plus v divided by negative 4. So this is a situation where you and your date are going to be in that fraction form. Wherever that's a terrible heart, but you get the idea. That is your couple right there. This side, home's just on the other side of town now, is with my negative 1. So this makes not this plus. This plus is dealing with you and your date. We are worrying about the sign in front of your third wheel. So we're going to add 8 on each side because that's the opposite of that negative 8. Negative 1 plus 8 is 7. V over negative 4, or divided by negative 4 would be a better way for me to say that. The opposite of division is to multiply. So if you want to put it as negative 4 over 1, you can. So you see how that's going to cancel. V equals negative 28. Negative 4 times 7 is negative 28. All right, 1 through 9 are good on this video. Go ahead and get the second video to start off with number 10.